welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are going to be doing a little headshot of a Australian Shepherd. So I'm doing a series A to Z of dog breeds, and as I'm doing this A to Z I'm going to make tutorials out of each piece. So it's only small pieces, 6x6, but hopefully this means there'll be a few more tutorials for you all. As usual, this is being drawn on the Fabriano Artistico Hot Press watercolour paper. This one is on the traditional coloured paper. And I've had a few requests for a merle dog. So starting off with an Australian Shepherd, a blue merle, and I'm going to show you how I would go about tackling this kind of dog. So as usual, I'm going to start with the eyes. Everything you need is listed down below. So going to start with my Polychromos dark sepia. And I'm just going to come in and map in the shape of the eye. Very light pressure, I'm not pressing hard at the moment. Just want to build up these layers of colour. I'm just mapping in the shape of the eye at the moment. And I'm going to bring in very lightly that area where there's fur at the bottom of the face. And you can see just how light pressure it is. You can see the texture of the paper shining through, and that is fine at this moment. I'm going to build on those layers and really build up the texture. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to map in the shapes and the darker shapes that I can see in the eye. Now, these eyes are quite detailed, so there's quite a lot of work to do. Just take your time and just follow the shapes, leaving gaps for your highlights. Okay, like so. So I'm now going to take my warm grey one and I'm going to use this as a base layer for this eye. It's a nice medium pressure, and I'm going over all this area where it's going to be brown in colour, where you can see all those nice brown tones of the eye. Okay. Then taking my burnt ochre, particularly on this edge where it's a bit lighter in tone. And I'm just going to come over that warm grey one, almost acting as like another base layer to work on top of. Okay, and then I want my burnt sienna, and we're going to start to build up the nice colours that we can see in this eye. So any areas where it's darker in tone, I'm just coming in. And adding this nice burnt sienna. Then I'm going to take my walnut brown, and this is for those areas that are really dark now. So along the top of this eye, so under this eyelid, it's always going to be quite dark. Depending on the angle, obviously, that the photo is taken at, but generally it's usually quite dark underneath there. And I'm going to bring it in around here as well. So I'm just drawing in those darker brown shapes everything is down to shapes. So yeah, we're doing an eye, but it's all the shapes. And it's going to be darker. Okay, just going back to that burnt sienna. And coming back in here with the burnt sienna. Just going to take my coal grey one where these highlights are. And it also acts as like another base layer to work on top of in these highlights. I'm going to take my Paynes Grey because it's quite bluish here. Again, I'm working around the shapes that I can see. And just adding in the Paynes Grey where it's blue. Going back to my dark sepia now, and I'm just going to go in and darken up those areas. It's nice hard pressure where we need it. Taking on the top of this eye. That's that coal grey one. I'm just going to blend. Then back to the dark sepia. Now obviously this eye is quite small, so we can't get as detailed as maybe we would do if it was a larger eye. But we're still going to bring in some nice detail work. Just blending that outwards there. Okay, back to that walnut brown. Just blending again. And then in that lighter area, I'm just getting back to that burnt ochre. And just increasing my pressure. And bring that nice orangey tone in. Going now to my black, and this is really where we start to really deepen those shadows. So obviously we've only used the dark sepia. But any areas that are really black, I'm coming in now with my black. Nice hard pressure to really deepen those shadows. Okay. Then got my sky blue, because we do have some blue in this highlight here. And I am going to come in with my slice tool just to bring some of these highlights back. Back to my walnut brown. So everything's a bit of back and forth, darken it up where you need to. And then if I do take my slice tool, I can come in and I can just slice away some of these highlights. Now, if you can't remove the pigment easily, you've not got enough pigment on the paper, so add more layers. The more layers you have, the easier it is to obviously remove pigment. Okay, so going back to my dark sepia now, and I'm just gonna start to bring this eye marking out. Okay, I'm now just making sure that I'm creating this darker rim under the eye, but I'm not pressing too hard, so it's medium pressure with this dark sepia at the moment. We will start to darken it all up, but we're just kind of sketching it in at the moment. And again, you can see I'm looking at the direction that this fur is going and using those sketchy movements to sketch in the shapes. I'm then going to go over this with a warm grey 2. And the warm grey 2 is really good for just like blending, just softening everything out. You can see it just softens it all out, but we're still going to be able to have a nice area to work on to darken everything up around the eye. So I'm going to come in with the Paynes Grey. And again, it's just the same thing over again, following that direction of the fur. But this is going to bring a nice blue tone in, which is complementing the fur colour, being a blue merle Australian Shepherd. Okay, and then I'm going to go over that with the Walnut Brown, because I can see some brown tones, and this is going to help as well when I blend into the fur pattern. We can use this Walnut Brown. And I'm just going to darken that corner a bit up now with the Walnut Brown. So hopefully you can see that this eye is just really starting to get set in place now. Going back with my black and just really coming in now. Any areas that just need to be black, really dark. And then I'm going to take my dark sepia again over the top. Just see how it's just, all those layers have really smoothed out this area as well. Okay, so that is our first eye, so we'll just move on to the second eye and do the exact same process. Now this second eye is a bit more in the light, where the light source is, so we've got more of a light source coming this way up the page. So it's not going to be as dark as this eye that we've drawn in, but still same techniques. So starting off again with a dark sepia. Okay, so again I'm just going to follow the shape of this eye nice and lightly with the dark sepia. Being aware of any highlights, because obviously with this eye there's a lot more highlights going on. And then again, I'm going to start to map in the shapes. Now I can really see the shapes in this eye. So I'm not going to go too overboard, just going to get the general gist of these shapes. But you want to make sure that you are following the shapes that you can see. And again, this is very light pressure, I'm not pressing hard. Just gently mapping in the shapes. It's like the dog's looking out of a window. Or into a window, so you've got like the windows. Okay. And then I'm going back to my warm grey one. And I'm just going to start to apply this as the base layer where we can see those nice tones, or the brown tones. And then it's back to the burnt ochre, bringing that nice orange tone. Almost like, again, as I said before, it's almost like another base layer on top of that warm grey one. Now I haven't used the ivory because I didn't want it to go like a bright orangey burnt ochre, which is why I've stayed away from that yellow tone of the ivory and stuck to the warm grey one as my base layer. So you just have to decide kind of when you're doing your base layers how the colours are going to interact with each other. Now my burnt sienna, you can see I'm using really sharp pencils with the eyes, especially on this kind of size details. But it's quite nice every now and then to do these smaller pieces. We should finish them a little quicker than the larger pieces. And this burnt sienna is kind of along the outside edge, and I want to bring it up here as well. Now I'm not worried about capturing all the details, I just want the main details on this eye. Okay, I've then got my Nougat. Just along this bottom edge. So you can already see how bright this eye is in contrast to that eye. And this will look kind of weird at first. Obviously you're going to have one eye brighter than the other. But once you start building up the fur and the shading in the fur, it's all going to make sense. Got my Walnut Brown. So it's all about trusting the process. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but bring that Walnut Brown in across the top of the eye as well. Quite hard pressure. Okay, I'm just going to take my warm grey one because it's quite light here, like you got that reflection. So I'm just going to use my warm grey one and then get my burnt ochre again. Okay, taking my coal grey one in those highlights. And then I've got the sky blue. Nice bright areas. And then going back in with the dark sepia, and we're going to darken up those shadows. So nice hard pressure. Okay. Along here. So already you can see the difference that just adding these darks make to your portrait. along there. Okay. Just gonna get my Paynes Grey now. Just gonna bring that in here a little bit. A few little extra details in there. Back to that burnt ochre. And then my warm grey one. We're going to start building up the eyelid here that we can see. So I can see the blue tone, so I'm just going to use that sky blue. And then we want our cinnamon. And then I'm just going to bring that cinnamon in. To those pink tones. And then I'm going to take my Ochre 4 and blend that over into that cinnamon. And I'm going to bring that Ochre 4 in here as well. With that sky blue. Okay, and then back with my burnt sienna for this eye. Okay, then I can take my slice tool, come in and add those little white highlights there, and then the little highlights in the eye. Okay. Right, so taking our dark sepia again. Actually, I'm going to take my warm grey too, because this side is lighter. We'll start off with a warm grey too. Obviously, some of this will become darker as we do darken it up, but some of it is quite light, so we're just going to stay with the warm grey too. And that gives us a nice base layer as well to work on top of. And then my dark sepia. So I'm coming in where it's dark, especially this part of the eye. Down here. Okay, I'm going to take the Ochre 4, Ochre 5. It's a bit darker, so. Again, I'm making sure everything is getting that nice blend. We want this area to look quite smooth before it goes into all that fur. My Paynes Grey, especially along this edge. Brown. Oops, that's the Walnut Brown. Walnut Brown where I know I'm going to have some warm fur, especially along here. And then I'm going to take my Nougat and just go over this hard pressure. And it's just going to help blend everything together. Okay, and then that Warm Grey too, just in here where it's lighter. Paynes Grey. Okay, and then I can take my black now and I can come in. Nice hard pressure in the areas that really need to be dark. Okay, just going to take that Walnut Brown along the bottom of this eye. Just to help darken that up, and the burnt Sienna. Bring that nice reddish tone into the eye again. Okay, and that is, hang on, my burnt ochre. I'm just going to bring that in, and then get that slice tool again, because I can just bring in those details. And if I take my white, and just with that white, I'm just going to come over, and it's just going to give you that nice glassy look. Okay, and that is 2 eyes, so we can start adding some fur to our Australian Shepherd. So I'm going to take the Warm Grey one, and we're going to be working on this tan area above the eye. So I'm just going to come in with the Warm Grey one and add this as a base layer, and I'm following that fur direction. Just need to lift some of that graphite. I will be following the fur direction, but as we build up our layers, it's the layers as we build up the fur is going to help us create that fur direction, but it's really important that we make sure that we are following the fur direction. It's curving round this eye. Okay, I'm going to take the light yellow ochre. Now this is where I'm using light pressure now, because we're going to start to build up all the colours in the fur, and you're going to start following that fur direction as you're building this up. Okay, and then the burnt ochre. going to bring it round here as well. So it's quite a big area that we're working on, but it will all come together. Taking the terracotta. This is just going to bring some nice bright orangey tones in this fur. So we come in with some darker tones soon. Okay, you're going to go over that again with the burnt ochre. Harder pressure, but not too hard because we still want to build up our layers. And again, I'm following that fur direction. Just going to get the cinnamon in here. There's a few pinkish tones. So it's just all about like building up the colours that you're seeing. Building up those layers of colours. Right, and then I'm going to take my Nougat. And then my burnt sienna, not very hard pressure with this, quite light pressure. I'm just going over to just darken up and add some more reddish tones, especially here where it's darker. And then we're going to take our walnut brown. It's coming from that darker area again. Okay. And then the light yellow ochre. And then I'm going back to that burnt ochre to help with that blending. Okay, just going to take my sanguine as well. Just down here. And then I've got my slice tool. So the slice tool I use a lot when it comes to merle dogs. And I'm just going to follow those little white markings. I use it a lot with all my work, but especially merle dogs, having this slice tool is going to be a really helpful tool. Or any slice tool, it doesn't have to be this particular one. Okay, and then I'm getting my dark sepia, and I'm going to come in between those little lines. So it's a nice sharp pencil. To darken up. like so. Just taking my Beige Red, I'm just going to come in now, nice hard pressure, and this is just going to help blend everything together as well. Okay, so we're going to do the under part of this eye. So we have a bit of this underneath here, we've got quite a bluish grey colour, so I'm going to come in first with the coal grey one and just add that where you can see that nice blue tone, just underneath here. And then I'm going to use my warm grey one for the rest of that area. Again, I'm following this third direction because you can see it's starting to curve around this eye. Okay, just going back over that bit with the coal grey one. Right, so I'm going to take my my Beige Red first. I'm going to do this as the base layer, where we can see the tanned fur. So blue merle is essentially tan, grey and black fur. Obviously the white as well. So there's lots of colours to go into a dog like this, even on a small scale. Because it's me and I like lots of colours. Burnt ochre. Now remember, I always say, if you don't see all these colours, you don't need to add them. This is just how I would come about tackling a drawing and the colours that I would add. But if you don't see them, you really do not need to add them. I'm more trying to give you the tips, techniques, and just how I would approach a dog like this. Right, and then I'm going to get my Nougat, which is there. Being careful of where that brown, that grey fur is, but I am going to start to bring it into here, so I might need to sharpen this. But you're going to start sort of overlapping. So I'm bringing it in, and I'm just going to... Now, I think I'm drawing on the wrong side of this paper, because it's quite grainy and textured. It's smoother on the other side. That's why I'm having to use a lot of layers just to get rid of the texture. I'm just going to bring this Nougat down from here. It's going to get darker. We're working our way up to those darker tones. Bring it around here, down. Okay, and then I can go back to that burnt ochre. In there. Okay, I'm going to take my coal grey free. Really start to amp up that bluish tone in here. And then the Paynes Grey. And the Paynes Grey, I'm just going to start to come down into this lighter area with these markings. So where you can see those little black fur, or the darker greys, we're just going to come in there with the Paynes Grey. As we start to build up now what's going to be a blue merle dog. You want some of that lighter grey showing through, so don't cover it all up. Okay, and then I'm going to my Walnut Brown along this eye. So coming from the eye outwards with the Walnut Brown. just going to bring it in here a little bit more. So it's a bit of back and forth again. Okay. Okay, I'm now going to take my Caput Mortuum. So this is all about just building up so many colours within the fur, or especially of a blue or any male dog. You can use so many colours just to build up the fur. Okay, I'm going back to that burnt ochre now. And my Beige Red. I'm going to take the coal grey one as well, just in here. Right, so a lot more detail will come in here as we come round this face, but we're going to get some fur in around this eye before part one is over. So again, we're going to come in first of all with our warm grey worm, and we're just going to map in that tan area that we can see. Okay, so that's the warm grey one. I'm going to go in with my light yellow ochre. Remember, this side is a lot lighter, so we're going to be able to bring in some nice brights. My Beige Red. Just going to go over that ochre colour as well. And then our burnt ochre. Few layers where you just want to get it nice and bright or vibrant in tones. Okay. And then I'm also going to come in with that terracotta. Nice hard pressure, just where it's really vibrant in colour. Along here. Okay, my cinnamon. So again, I'm just really building up all these colours that I can see in the tan area. And then we're going to our Nougat. and our Walnut Brown. Coming back with that terracotta on the burnt ochre. Okay, I'm going to take my dark sepia. Just going to start to bring in those details. It's a nice sharp pencil as we're doing this. Again, following that fur direction and the shape of the eye. Because remember, this is going up and over the eye, so we want to create that effect of it going up and over our eye. I'm going to get my Caput Mortuum in here as well. Okay, and then my slice tool. That's just going to bring in some of those lighter hairs. Again, as you're doing this slice tool work, you really want to follow that fur direction. Okay, and I'm just going to bring that here as well, just to bring out some of those highlights a little bit more. Okay. So the Ochre one again, because we've got that blue tone underneath this eye. And then the warm grey one as we start to bring in some of this fur. Back to my beige red. So this area is quite pinkish in tone around that coal grey area. So I'm going to use my beige red to create that. Sort of like, I guess, another base layer as we're building up all these colours. And then my burnt ochre on this side. And then I'm going to take my Caput Mortuum and my Nougat. Now, if you're working on the correct side of the Fabriano, you won't see as many of these texture lines. Like, you can really see how textured this is. So don't worry if yours doesn't look like that. It shouldn't look as textured as this. But I'm not going to restart on the opposite side. And then my Walnut Brown. That's going into a darker area of marking, which we will add. Again, following that fur direction. Now, a lot of these markings are going to come sort of together as we bring in the face. But we just want to add some context around our eyes. I get my dark sepia. You can see I'm just following the fur direction, bringing in some of this texture, these darker areas, and it's just creating that nice marking around this eye. Take my coal grey one again. And my coal grey 3 along this bottom edge of this eye, just to bring that blue tone back. And take my cinnamon. And then the, oops, burnt ochre again. And then my slice tool. Like so. And there we have the eyes of our Australian Shepherd. So the next part we're going to start coming sort of from the left to the right. Obviously I'm right-handed, so I do left to right. But yeah, I will see you all in the next part. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Don't forget to like this video, it really helps push the channel out. Any comments, leave them down below, and I will see you all soon. Bye everybody.